Clockwork Soldier.
Generation Orange in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yo, we're live. Man, that's going to be really awkward to get used to. So, just so you guys are aware, in our headphones this week, it's extremely crackly. We didn't change anything of our setup whatsoever. So we're going to try to figure that out during breaks. And we know that you guys aren't hearing it, which is good. But when we're hearing it, it's very distracting if we're trying to talk to one another and all we hear is sounds, you know. It's like I'm listening to Jurassic Park or something on repeat. So last week was a good show. 3 hours. That was a long show, to say the least. We were both pretty drained after that show. But we appreciate all of you that tuned in. It was a fantastic show. Made even better by all the participation we had in the YouTube chat. Even if people didn't call in, yeah, I'm looking at you guys in YouTube chat who didn't call in.
Who said they were going to call in?
For shame. And yeah, you had 3 hours, so it's not like you could have been like, oh, I was working all night. I mean, surely you get off before 10 o'clock. I mean, unless you work retail, and if you work retail, well, even if you work retail, you should be off before 10 o'clock. Either way, it is what it is. We understand. You don't want to call in and talk to us. We get it. We understand. But this week's show has no show notes. This should be a really interesting show. Probably not going to go more than 2 hours, I would imagine, unless we hit a topic that we just absolutely have to rant on for some unknown reason. I do want to make a quick shout out to the Down in the Valley Gaming channel, which has already posted 3 videos now. Two. Third one's going up tomorrow. Sometime soon. It was recorded last night.
Yeah, but it was too embarrassing.
Oh, it doesn't matter how embarrassing. That's the best videos. Everybody loves those videos. We may despise them. We will only watch them once, if that. They'll watch them over and over and over again because they enjoy laughing at us. So it's totally okay.
I'll go ahead and edit it tonight.
So shout out to Travis and Andres for their participation and commitment to joining us when they are able to join us in Rocket League. And that's kind of becoming a consistent game. I think we'll be playing pretty consistently on the channel from time to time.
Yeah, definitely. So the first episode, or the first video we posted was the first time we all played together in Rocket League. It was loads of fun. We actually, spoiler alert, we actually won a couple of games. So be sure to check that out. The second video was actually released today around noon. And that is Jacob and I playing The Crew 2 with a cross-country trek from Miami to South Padre Island, and discovering a bunch of funny stuff along the way. So be sure if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Down in the Valley Gaming and check out those videos. I'm sure you'll have a heck of a good time listening to those.
And we'll definitely post the link to the video channel. It's the same channel though, isn't it?
No, it's a different channel.
It's a different channel. So do us a favor if you're watching or you're listening, even if this is after we air live and you're listening later or watching later, do us a favor, go ahead and go like and share and subscribe the new Down in the Valley Gaming channel. We want to build that out as quickly as possible, as big as possible, because it will open some doors for us in some different ways that we'd really like to open some doors in, which would be great. So there's that shout out of the way. Also, a shout out to Keeper Notes, Jen Cooper, who will be returning or is back now, I guess, from Russia, and enjoyed her time out there at the World Cup, which is awesome. That World Cup, by the way, was awesome. The final was great. Even the third place match was great. The quarters, the semis. There were matches that were okay. I really could have done without, but they were very few and far between. And for a World Cup to be able to say that more than 85% of the matches were must-see matches and provided some level of drama in some way, shape, or form is pretty outstanding. And, it was good soccer all the way through. There were some teams playing different styles, and it was interesting to see that balance in styles go against each other and to see how teams would play off one another. And also, it creates a different atmosphere when your overwhelming favorite to win the World Cup bows out in the group stage. And upsets like that, they just set the tone for the entire World Cup, and they really did in this World Cup.
And you know what? I think another thing that I feel that we saw out of this World Cup is the fact that in our modern soccer, in our modern world football, we starting to see how the collectiveness of a team is in the long run is going to be better than just a bunch of individuals.
Yeah, absolutely.
We see the new style of soccer kind of taking over.
Well,
with
that's the thing, though. It's not a new style of soccer. It's been around. I think the difference is you're seeing teams that would normally not have an opportunity getting those opportunities. And the team, the smaller teams, the smaller countries are the ones playing that team-oriented soccer. It's not new. It's just they're playing it in such a way that those countries, the bigger countries that have the superstar players, your Brazil, your Germany, although I think Germany is a bit of a wild card in that one because they play team soccer, but they play team soccer with a bunch of good players. And it was just very interesting to see them come against almost like a brick wall, and just struggle to figure it out in this World Cup. And, you hit the nail on the head. I think it was you that said Germany don't have any strikers coming into this World Cup. And if it wasn't you, it might have been Jacob that said it on Down the Valley when we were
I think it was Jacob.
We were predicting ahead of time and also discussing it. So, credit to Jacob for calling that out. It definitely came very apparent in that third match against
South
Korea. And credit to South Korea. Again, team-oriented soccer, team-oriented football. They absorbed all of the pressure Germany threw at them, and then they opened opportunities for themselves on the counter. And what we're seeing, too, is a lot of teams that are team-oriented, they're also figuring out how to be more counter-attack effective. And we're seeing that efficiency resulting in teams that would normally get ahead because they just continue to pound the ball, at the teams that are sitting back. They're finding themselves on their heels because they don't know, they're unable to absorb that counterattack pressure coming back the other way. And it was just really interesting to watch that match. And I don't think that scoreline would have been quite so bad had Manuel Neuer not come up as far as he did. Credit he had to. But, credit to Japan or South Korea for taking advantage in nailing that third goal home.
Now, also, what I did want to bring up is the fact how important free kicks and,
set pieces
it was in this World Cup.
Set pieces essentially won the World Cup, if you think about it. Not just in the France match, but for Croatia, it was their Achilles heel this entire tournament, and it showed itself repeatedly in that match against France.
Yes.
It put teams in positions that normally wouldn't be there to squeeze out of their group, to knock off the bigger teams, whatever the case may be. This was one of the World Cups where, if I remember correctly from listening to the announcers, set piece goals were, like the number one way that goals were scored throughout the World Cup.
Yes.
And not only that, it was one of the first times they'd seen that many set piece goals in a World Cup. Mm-hmm. So, whether it's from outstanding golazo on a free kick, whether it's from a header in the box on a corner kick, whether it's from penalty kicks, whatever it may be, it was just very important and very valuable. And I thought one of the best moments of the World Cup actually was VAR on that handball in the final, because I felt that VAR needed that moment where it was questionable to some extent, but you could only question it so far. His hand was there. It definitely hit his hand. It was not in a natural position. It deflected the ball away from goal, et cetera, et cetera. Intent, you can never tell intent. Even in VAR, you can't tell what the intention was behind his hand being there. But I think we have to remove that whole intent thing out, to be honest with you, because you can't tell what the intent is going to be even in replay. You can't tell it even live usually. You can make assumptions about what the intent was, but that leaves too much up to the referee discretion. It really should be if the arm's in an unnatural position and the ball hits the arm, and it's not arm to ball, or hand to ball, but ball to hand. Ball to hand is different. Hand to ball, that's when And I felt like that's kind of what that ended up being because he moved in such a way that it deflected it.
Harry, we'll get to your question right now. But honestly, I looked at the play. I looked at it many times. Even though I guess in the pure sense, I do agree that it was a handball.
Well, you support Mexico, so that's all we need to know about your
the
point of
problem
view.
I see is because you say it's in a natural position.
Yeah.
I say it's part of the movement of the player jumping over to the ball because he was like he lifted his arms to kind of get some impulse when he was jumping, and as the hands were coming down, that's where the ball hit him.
But let me ask you this question: Is he not putting his hand in a position, whether intentionally or not, putting his hand in an unnatural position?
I don't think it's unnatural because it's a normal movement. After getting impulse, you're gonna because it wasn't like his hand was going down and then he like brought it up as he saw that the ball was going at him.
Actually, when they did the super slow-mo, you could see his hand go and then slightly come up and hit the ball. I'm just saying.
I'll
I'm just saying.
that.
Go back and watch it.
You'll
see it. You'll be like, oh, okay. Because I was thinking, to your defense, I was thinking the same thing. And when I saw, and it was only one angle you could actually see it on, where you see his hand do this. You don't see his arm move. You see his hand flash up, and it's not much. It's a subtle movement, but it's enough. You can tell. That's why I say it was definitely a penalty kick.
These Rice Krispies
Pop,
crackle and pop.
Snap, pop, crackle and pop. Yeah, no, it's crazy right now. But
Okay, so Harry, he asked, so does that make FIFA's decision to expand the right decision? Because you mentioned about all these play styles and.
I'm torn on it, but I'm torn on it in such a way that I think as of right now, the answer to that is yes. What I don't want to see is the bigger teams sit back and just go, we're going to make it anyway. So, because it's an expanded roster of teams, as long as we play good enough, we'll be okay. We don't have to necessarily get first in our group. I think it just creates a little less pressure in that regard. But I do think it gives the lesser countries, the smaller countries, an opportunity to make it to the World Cup stage. The only concern I have there, too, and I think my concern is lessened after this World Cup, is I don't want to see a bunch of Germany trouncing Trinidad and Tobago. I don't want to see that. I know that didn't happen in this World Cup, but I'm using it as an example. If we go to the next World Cup in Qatar in November of 2022.
That's a mouthful.
I'm rolling my eyes so hard it hurts.
Oh, man.
We'll get to that in a minute, too. But, if we get to that World Cup and we're in that World Cup and your top teams are just obliterating the lower country, smaller country teams, then it's different. But I think this World Cup proved that there is a significant increase in capability and talent level of the smaller countries overall. Even Egypt, who even without Mo Salah, they still didn't look bad. They just couldn't figure out how to score. But they didn't look bad as a country. They, as a team, they looked pretty solid. In Iran and Morocco, they didn't have the greatest World Cup, but at the same time, they pushed Spain and Portugal at various times. And there were, you had kind of concerns halfway through a couple of those matches whether, those two national teams would actually be able to do what they were trying to do. But like I said, all in all, at the end of the day, at the end of this tournament, it was a fantastic World Cup. It ended fantastically. I feel for Croatia, but I was actually rooting for France. And it had nothing to do with the fact that was going to secure first place for me in the Down in the Valley tournament, by the way, just so we're clear. That was due to the fact that I find myself, I can't help but root for Kylian Mbappe. The kid is phenomenal. He is incredible. And the world stage needs players like that. And don't get me wrong, Luka Modric is wonderful in his own right as a player. He was incredible to watch throughout the tournament. He was fun to watch in that match because, he was a big part of their attempt at a comeback. But, much like every other World Cup, there were some players that made their name at this World Cup. Sebasic made his name at this World Cup. That goal, I just like whatever. Perisic, Croatia's team in general, they're fantastic players, but there were players on that team that elevated their game to the next level, and that gets recognized, and they're going to have a contract coming, possibly transfer requests coming that are going to move them to a bigger team. It's I always like the World Cup too because you get a lot of those Premier League teams and La Liga teams and Bundesliga teams scouting talent, and they're scouting for the lesser known names. Sometimes they're scouting for the players that they show talent and they show the raw capabilities at the tournament, but maybe don't have the finished touch to them yet, so they can develop them in that way. So, I'm interested to watch this crop of World Cup players, the ones that introduce themselves to the world right now and the past few weeks. I'm interested to see how those players develop over time. Yeah. How those players, build themselves into their own brand, if you will, build themselves into their own club, into the club atmospheres that they've got to go back to. And I'm interested to see some of that movement that's going to happen, transfers and things like that. But I can't help but struggle a little bit when I hear and I read that the next World Cup is going to be in the fall. Winter, not even fall, in the winter. Yeah. That just hurts me to no end because, one, that bid was bid on based on a summer World Cup. It was not bid on based on a winter World Cup. And many people made that complaint immediately of, hey, it's going to be 120 degrees. Well, the bid included that all of the Qatar stadiums were going to include air conditioning throughout the entire stadium for both fans, the teams, or for the fans, the teams, the refs, the luxury suites, etc. They were going to have movable cloud air conditioning structures that are going to help cover the stadium and protect from the sun and this, that, and the other. So, in other words, what I'm saying is their bid was a bunch of hogwash.
Sci-fi.
Yeah, a lot of science fiction. Really just a lot of fiction. Forget the science, just a lot of fiction in general. And at the end of the day, they're not delivering on 90% of what they said they would deliver on. Oh, gee, who would have seen that coming? I mean, anybody with a freaking right mind would have seen that coming.
Yeah, because it's like, we're going to create a completely new city for the final.
Yeah. And then they're talking about, they're concerned about having to have, one of the big issues is they're probably going to have the fan fest, the fan, setup that they have. It's not going to be able to be in
outside the stadium.
Yeah, it's not going to be in Doha and outside the stadiums. It's going to be like 20 some odd miles away or something, even further than that, I think, actually. And so there's a lot of concern about that because that's, again, not part of their original bid. And that's a big deal because if you're separating the fans from the matches, that creates it's not as big of an atmosphere at all.
What can you expect from Qatar? It's all about, they don't really care about soccer.
No, they don't. And they never did. And it never was about soccer.
It was all about pretty much, hey, look, we got a lot of money. Wee.
Yeah, pretty much. You're spot on 100% right. And
kind of going over some other concerns, and this one deals with MLS. We've got two people. We got Cisco and Riley mentioned this. So Cisco says, my initial concern was how it conflicts with MLS playoffs. There's no way you can expect a player to choose their club over country. Imagine, though, being in the final and having 2 or 3 players out.
I don't know. I mean, thankfully, there's 4.5 years to worry about that. But it's going to have to be something MLS is going to have to figure out. And it may be that MLS takes that 4-week period off. And we see a contracted season, or not a contracted season. We see a shortened season and then a shortened playoff structure for just that season, or I don't know. I leave it up to Don Garber and MLS to figure it out, but that is a huge task to figure out. That's for sure.
Cisco then says the positive to a Winter World Cup, and players often make names for themselves in the tournament. And having them join a club for preseason as opposed to midway through a season would be huge. The thing about it is, though, remember, when the winter off season only lasts, I guess, like a month.
It's not even that.
Yeah,
it's like
3 weeks.
2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah, and so it's really not enough time. They would have to completely change the tournament calendar for that year just to accommodate this winter World Cup.
Well, and that's the thing. They usually use that winter break as an opportunity to play to play league Federation Cup match type things. Like the Copa de Libertadores is played in that window. It's portions of it are played in that window, and CONCACAF Champions League is played in that window. UEFA Champions League is played in that window. The FA Cup is played in that window. Your biggest tournaments in the world are played in that window, and the World Cup has basically said you have to, or FIFA has basically said, because Qatar is dumb, has said you have to change your calendar and schedule because we're not moving it it's going to be on these days. It's going to be during this time. And the problem is that, like I said, when you start talking about, you're forcing 6, 7, 8, probably 15 different federations to have to change their tournament scheduling to suit this so that their players can go to the World Cup, or their players don't have to pick between the two. I'm going to be very interested to see how UEFA handles it, because if they have to start moving their Champions League's matches around, that's going to make their league schedule crazy for all their leagues. Yes. That includes the Premier League. We're going to be seeing 3-4 matches played in a week. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy. And these players, if they're playing that many matches leading up to the World Cup, they're going to be dead by the time the World Cup is done. And
then once they're over there, gonna have to deal with all this heat, the humidity.
And even then, the heat. I want to say that in the winter, the heat during the day at regular hours, like up until 6 or 7, and even in the winter, is still 80, 90 degrees. It's not like we're talking about it's like over here where when it gets hot and then it cools off in the evening enough that hey, I could go play soccer. Over there, no, it's still hot as hell. Like, it's just, there's no sun. That's really the only difference. But, there's a lot of questions, and that should surprise nobody at this point. And, the fact that FIFA continues to push that this is the way it's going to be is really the more frustrating point, part of it all. Because, again, we've been talking about these things for 6 years since they or more than that since they've been on these World Cups.
And that was before Brazil.
Yeah, and that was before Brazil. Yeah. So that was
8. Yeah, 4. No, 4.
No, it wasn't right before Brazil. So then it was a little over 4 years ago. It'd have been like 4.5, 5 years ago.
Actually, hold on. Yeah, because they announced. Yeah, before Brazil, they announced 2018 Russia, and then 2022.
Yeah, they were back to back. Yeah, because they were bid on at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Which was shady enough as it is.
Well, hashtag FIFA. But at the end of the day, we can't change that right now. What's going to take place is going to take place, and it actually puts the U.S. and I think in a better situation overall, because their players, as MLS goes, MLS players are going to be at the advantage because they're coming off their season like most of the players around the rest of the world going to the World Cup in the summer are, because most of those seasons end at the end of in the middle or early part of the summer. So with MLS teams and MLS players coming off there, they're still in that mode of season mode, whereas a lot of your players that are, they're still in that season mode, whereas a lot of your players they're halfway through their season, which means they're exhausted at that. They're trying to find rest wherever they can. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot more player injuries in this upcoming World Cup in 4.5 years, and I think we're going to see some key players go down with injuries in the World Cup itself during matches, and things that are non-contact type injuries. I think we're going to see more ACLs, more MCLs. I think we're going to see more like ankle problems, more knee problems, more muscle problems in the legs, because heat exhaustion. There's a whole litany of concerns, and these are concerns that have been brought up for a while as well. But again, we can rant and rave about it all we want, but at the end of the day, FIFA's made the decision. It is what it is. It's not going to change in 4 years. They're just not going to. We just have to deal with it, and MLS and other leagues have to figure out how they're going to approach it. And to be fair, those leagues, they're going to back off and they're going to move their schedules around, and it's going to create some serious concerns for players. And again, we just have to wait and see how it goes.
Yeah, and that answers Harry's question, which was if there was any chance they would move it. They would move the World Cup to another country.
No, not at this point. If they were going to move it, they would have already done it. Because the moment that they announce that it's a Winter World Cup, that takes away any chance they're going to move it. Because if they were going to move it, they would have moved it for the pure fact of you bid on a Summer World Cup and you're delivering a Winter World Cup.
Yes.
So if they were going to move it, they would have moved it for that, not for anything else. All these other concerns, these are things that money can bribe people from not worrying about. But so Harry, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it's all about the money with this bid. Now, I was thinking right now, like, but it sounds so dumb. It'd be a lot of outrage though. But should there be a limitation as to, for example, at what certain FIFA ranking a country should be able to qualify to do a bid for World Cup?
No, because
now think about it. If you're at least decently positioned in the FIFA ranking, that means you at least have some sort of football knowledge.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything, because look at Nigeria. Nigeria is ranked 30th or something in the world, and their infrastructure in Nigeria isn't that great. The reason they're ranked so high is because their team is good. There's a very stark difference between quality of team and quality of federation, and quality of country's federation. And I think, those two things do not have to intersect necessarily. They don't have to correlate either. They do in a lot of instances where you have your first world countries, if you will. But outside of your first world countries, no, that absolutely. And you don't want to eliminate countries simply because their soccer team sucks. It doesn't necessarily correlate to anything. I mean, South Korea, well, not South Korea, sorry. South Korea is not a good example. I mean, China could host, and China would be a fantastic host for a World Cup. And yet their team's not that great. The Chinese team is not good, really, at all. So you're going to eliminate really, countries that are decent, just simply, or not decent, but countries that have the infrastructure simply because their team, their soccer isn't great. And so I don't think that's necessarily a fair way to go about it. And I think that would be your major objection. And then there are those countries that their teams are good and their infrastructure is not. I mean, Brazil, while they hosted it, their infrastructure was terrible leading up to it. They had so many problems, and yet they're one of the top teams in the world. So, take into account, it doesn't really matter. That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, it just really doesn't matter, because you don't know, teams could have fantastic players and the infrastructure just not be there. I mean, Croatia is about to skyrocket in terms of their capability, in terms of their FIFA ranking, and it's not going to matter because their infrastructure in Croatia could never handle a World Cup. It just can't. It's not the right type of country for that. And so I think because the pool is limited for your countries that can capably host, or that can afford to pay to host, I think that would eliminate the possibility of doing what, moving in the route that you said, where you limit based on, you can't bid or you can't put a bid in unless you have XYZ infrastructure in place. With that said, let's go ahead and actually jump to a break. We're going to start trying to do this on every half hour so that you guys can kind of get into a rhythm, and we can get into a rhythm as well. So it's 7:30. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Dynamo, because it's time for Dynamo talk, because, this is a Dynamo and Dash and RGV podcast. So we'll be back in a minute, or 5 or so.
When times are down, I'll be with you. Yeah, times are rough, this time I see it too. All this bullshit drama, I can see right through. Everybody wants something they can't have, so they gon' put it on you. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. Over the ocean, I can see us there. Let's run away and be forever young. We'll catch the sun where there's no need to run. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. see you and you see me too. We may be broke, but we see the truth. All this bullshit drama, I can see right through. Everybody wants something they can't have, so they gon' put it on you. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. Over the ocean, I can see us there. Let's run away and be forever young. We'll catch the sun where there's no need to run. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. Yeah, you can take me there. Yeah, you can take me there. Yeah, you can take me there.
Welcome back to Generation Orange. I am your host / co-host, Sean Ringrose, and my other co-host is...
Obviously, Sean Ringrose, apparently.
Do you have me on there twice?
No, it's just since it's a copy of the source, the Twitter handle shows up on both screens as Sean Ringrose.
That's funny. But no, really, it's Edson Ochoa with me. And we go live every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central on Down in the Valley YouTube. And also, speaking of Down in the Valley YouTube, Down in the Valley airs every Wednesday / Thursday, depending on the week, on Down in the Valley YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Tune in as well. It's good stuff, good discussions. Definitely worth tuning into. And you can't miss out on Jacob's attempts at humor. They're great. They're great. No, really, he's very funny. So I said we're going to talk Dynamo. So I think I shared this with you. I know I shared it to a couple people on Friday. Maybe it was Saturday when I got the info that, or even earlier in the week. I don't remember when I got the info now. That it looked likely the Dynamo. Actually, no, it had to be Saturday. It looked likely the Dynamo were going to put their focus on Open Cup and the Dallas match on Saturday this weekend, and as a result, they were going to be trotting out a very, I think the word that I had told to me was a very interesting lineup, and I think interesting may be cutting it a little dry and a little short. That was I'm gonna just say it. It was an absurd lineup, and it was an absurd formation. It was a 5-4-1, and really it was like a 5-3-1-1. It looked as weird and played as weird as we would expect a 5-3-1-1 to play. Mm-hmm. And we were playing a 5-3-1-1 with a winger playing as the center forward who can play center forward with the guy playing underneath him that's not a second striker by any stretch of the imagination. And it just looked awkward. It played awkward. The ball moved awkward, in Colorado, and it was weird. It was just weird to watch. You could tell the Dynamo had definitely kind of phoned that match in, if you will. The players were still playing to win or score a goal or at least, whatever. But you could tell that Wilmer was content with whatever they pulled out of that match. He wasn't necessarily going for, we're going to, run him into the ground. He was more going for, we're going to absorb any pressure we need to absorb. I'm going to have enough defenders back that if they try to score, we're going to have cover. And let's be honest, his plan worked as you would expect it to. It did succeed at what they were trying to do, which was not allow Colorado a ton of chances on goals, not allow a ton of opportunity on goal, yes, and not allow many shots on goal. And they were held to less than, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 shots on goal total. Shots total, not even shots on goal. First half, I think they had 4 shots total. Mm-hmm. That's an absurdly low number. And then ours wasn't a whole lot better. I don't think we had I think we had one shot. But it was by design. It was, and that's what I'm saying. It was going into that match with a lineup as it was. My expectation was we're not going to go score a goal. We're going to go and try to absorb as much of their pressure as possible. We're going to possess the ball where we can, and we're not going to put the pressure on them, so to speak. We're going to let them put a little bit of that pressure on us so that our guys aren't running as hard. I liked Lundqvist on the left side, not necessarily in a 5-back formation, but I liked him on the left side. Kevin Garcia did hold his own, and he looked okay. He had a couple of nervy moments, but he looked all right. He got in the, got into the attack and did well enough. There were a few times that he gave away possession due to a lack of, I know this is going to surprise you, a lack of speed, but he did. Our midfielders did what they were out there to do, which was slow down, slow the game down when it's coming at them. Commit the fouls as necessary when the game's coming at them. Yes. Be judicious in possession. Be judicious with, in absorbing the counter. But it looked weird. It looked awkward, and that that's because we're at this point as a fan base, we're used to the 4-3-3. We're used to our wingers flying high and flying fast. We're used to a lot of counter attacking, and while we did have some counters and we did look okay on the counter, it was clear we weren't pushing all our effort into scoring a goal. And again, that succeeded because we didn't allow a goal. The final result was 0-0, which was that first 45 minutes actually went by really fast because there were very few stoppages in play. And something else I'm going to note that I took away from this match is that Giles Barnes still has it. He looked really quite good connecting with Badji the couple of times and couple of opportunities he did. I feel for the guy in picking up the injury that he picked up and dealing with the ankle foot injury that he's dealing with. I think he's going to be a good, definitely good signing for them. And for a guy coming off no league matches played in this past season, coming in, he looked like he played some matches. He was very fit, very ready. And a lot of people don't know that Giles Barnes also has asthma.
Really?
Yeah, he has asthma, and if you ever watch him, there are some matches that he'll call to the bench and he'll ask for his inhaler. He has an inhaler with him at every match, and he uses it to open his lungs up, or open his passageways up so he can breathe better. We'd see it all the time here in Houston. It was something I had always noted whenever I'd see it. Oh, hey, he's got an inhaler, and he's doing this inhaler thing. And I think he's going to struggle with that a lot more in Colorado because of the altitude, because of the lack of oxygen at that level. But then again, he played in Mexico at an elevation of over 5,000 feet. So he has some experience with that. And it'll be interesting to see how he plays in Colorado going on for the rest of the season. They definitely needed something. They needed to insert some sort of electricity. And you could tell the fans appreciated what he put out there on the field. And there was a creativity there that Colorado has lacked, which, to be fair, it reminded me a lot of when he came in for the Dynamo in those seasons as well. His first season here, he injected a lot of electricity, a lot of creativity into a lineup that did not have a lot of it in that position. So, it will be interesting to see how it plays out. We've seen him play in that two striker formation. We know what he can do. We know what his struggles and limitations are. He didn't look terrible. He didn't look great. He looked better than average though. And that was from a guy hadn't played a single Liga MX match in his time with Club Leon, coming in and immediately playing a match in Colorado his second day there, which was pretty impressive in and of itself. And he probably could have gone longer if it wasn't for the injury. He didn't look, everybody was like, oh, he looks exhausted. No, he breathes deeply because of the asthma. So when he looks like he's tired because he's huffing really hard, it's because he's trying to suck in as much air as he can to force it into his lungs to keep that airflow going. It's not because he's tired or exhausted. So that was, there's not a whole lot else to talk about that match. Watts got another start, got a second start of the season in a 3 center back, 2 outside back, 5 back formation. It was Leonardo, which I was really concerned by, and frankly, he actually did better than I expected.
Yeah, so it's Joe Willis.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's Joe Willis on goal. And then you had Kevin Garcia as your right wing back, Adolfo Machado, Jared Watts, and Leonardo as the 3 center backs, and then Adam Lundqvist as the left wing back. Then you had a line of 4, according to Google, with Tomas Martinez, Memo Rodriguez, which I'm pretty sure was probably switched. It should be switched around. Eric Alexander and Luis Gil up on top with Romel Kyoto.
And I will say this, the best chance of the entire match really went to the Dynamo when Luis Gil had the ball in the box after it was, basically passed to him or deflected to him, and then his shot was just poor. It was on a rebound, and it had no pace on it whatsoever. If he had any pace on that ball, it's in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because he was already tired by that point or what it was, but it was what it was. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just said that Cisco saying that Gil missed an open net.
Yes.
But I do have to say, though, that I think Luis Gil has surprised me.
Why? What was your expectation? Obviously, was significantly low.
It was. And I think he's done a decent job, like that whenever he gets called to play, whether he comes in as a sub or as a starter, I think he doesn't do an outstanding job, but he does just what's required of him.
So you're saying he's filling that Vicente Sanchez void?
I don't want to say that because there's Vicente Sanchez and then there's
Luis.
So,
No, I know, but
but at least the fact that like when you make that sub with Luis Gil, you can't really tell. Like there are some times where you put in a sub and it's like the level of play, the quality of
diminishes
play.
quickly. Yes.
And I think Luis Gil has had some bright moments when he does play.
Well, and I said it when he was brought in on loan that he was going to be in a better position here to succeed than he had in his recent past because A, Wilmer knows how to play him, and then B, he's in a better position overall. Previously, he wasn't being played as really an attacking mid. He was being played out wide, and that's not his comfort place. He wants to be played as an attacking mid. And so he's really viewed more or less as a sub for Tomas. And if you think about it, if Tomas is going out for any, of a match for in the late stages, there may be another sub that corresponds with that, but eventually it's going to be Luis Gil that's brought in or Boni Garcia. Mm-hmm. One of the two is going to be brought in to replace him.
So why do you want to cut Gil, the Blues fan? Would be interesting to see.
Because he's a jerk. That's why he doesn't like Luis Gil because he wants another Vicente Sanchez. He just needs to understand that Vicente Sanchez doesn't grow on trees, and you can't just because you want a player to you want to replace another player doesn't mean that this guy is intended to actually replace that player, and he's not by any stretch of the imagination.
That's why when you asked me, I'm like there's really no comparison.
There's a reason I asked you, yes, and I was hoping you would go. If you had said other way, I would have been like cringing over here. But so the other thing to keep in mind too, and this is important, is how enviable it was for Wilmer to be able to bring in Elise and Morrow at the end of that match for 10, 15 minutes. To be able to bring those two players off the bench. Now, it would have been even better if he didn't have to, if he didn't think he needed to start Kyoto and could have started somebody else there, in the future, like a Ronaldo Pena, to be able to start a player there and give Kyoto rest as well. It would have been even better because then he could have brought all three of those guys on in the latter stages of that match, leave Tomas on, and let Tomas distribute and run Colorado into the absolute dirt. Because at that point, you could tell their backs were tired. They were wearing out real quick.
Yeah.
Which was kind of funny because we didn't put a whole lot of pressure on them, but that's neither here nor there. There's a question being asked of Edson over there, I can tell. Or a statement that was made that was confusing.
It's Gabe.
Oh, well,
but basically
you don't even need to read it.
He's asking if AJ will play this week. This is actually a good question, actually. That's why I was like...
Gabe took his troll hat off. All right, cool.
Yeah, that's why I was like...
No, I'm giving Gabe credit. He's toned down that trolling like significantly. I think he's handed that hat over to Callow and let Callow take that up. And Gabe has become he's been a very intelligent person with a lot of very intelligent points, but it tended to be obscured by the fact that he tended to troll hardcore. And I don't know if it's due to time or just he's matured enough now to reach that age of I don't need to troll anymore or troll a whole lot less. But it's appreciated, Gabe, just so you know. But at the same time, to answer his question, what was his question again?
Will AJ De La Garza play this week?
I'm going to tell you the answer is no, but it would not surprise me if we saw him possibly make the lineup, at least the 18 on Saturday. I don't think we see him in Open Cup. I say that. Maybe he does make the Open Cup squad because that would make a lot of sense to bring him back into that type of match.
Yes.
I think the answer to Gabe's question is very possible, but no guarantee. I can say, and I'm going to get flack for this, but I can say pretty solidly that AJ's been ready for about 2 months now. 2.5 months at this point, actually. He was ready before World Cup to come back. Now, with that being said, what the player feels like and what the organization thinks is in the best interest of both the organization and the player are two different things. And he may be ready to come back mentally, and he may feel he's ready to come back physically, but if you rush back from an injury like that, you're your likelihood of re-injuring yourself is pretty substantial.
Yeah.
With that said, he's past that duration where he should be able to come back with no issues. He's definitely physically ready. He's definitely mentally ready. So I think he gets an opportunity soon, hopefully, maybe, possibly. But at the same time, I think, was impacted by the fact that Lundqvist came in and played so well. Wenger played so well in his absence. Machado is capable over there. I wouldn't say played well, but he's been capable over there. And then I guess they have Kevin Garcia back. I'll look at the other. I'm comparing and contrasting here, and I'm going Lundqvist, Wenger, Machado, and then somewhere down that line, way down that line at right back is Kevin Garcia, who I really wish they would just send him back to RGV and let RGV take him as a right back for the remainder of their season. But at the same time, the Dynamo probably don't want to stunt any growth at right back, which is completely understandable because they have a couple of players right now at outside back that are showing pretty darn good. And, credit to the Dynamo for not wanting to mess that up, because they could send Kevin Garcia back and you could see Kevin Garcia start at right back for you guys. You could see legitimately RGV could see an outside back tandem of Derek Luke and Kevin Garcia. Isn't that just exciting? Gerson would probably play him at center back, just so we're clear. Yeah, you're right. No, absolutely. We'll get to that in the RGV Express segment a little bit later on in the next hour.
So just a couple of statements that have been coming up in the chat. So Riley Feltman says, Gil is a serviceable player who stands in as a body who doesn't actively hurt you most of the time and doesn't change the game in your favor.
I think he can change the game in the Dynamo's favor. I just don't think he's going to do that consistently. I think he's going to have those moments like when he juggled that ball at the top of the box in two matches ago against LAFC. Was that LAFC or was that the second match of the week when we played
Minnesota?
Minnesota.
I think it was LA.
It was LA. You're right. It was LA. And he juggled it at the top of the box, and it was phenomenal. And that moment created the opportunity for Senderos to score that goal.
Yeah.
So, I think Gil, I know Gil has those opportunity moments in him to be able to shine. But I also think that it takes time with Wilmer for Wilmer to pull that out of him consistently. And I don't think we're going to end up keeping Gil all that long. He's on a loan, and his loan expires, I believe, at the end of this season. So there is an option to buy. There is a good likelihood we probably will attempt to buy, but I don't know what that fee is going to be. I don't know what they set that as. If it was a low amount, then we probably will definitely buy. If it's anything more than a couple $100,000, probably not likely to buy him. Yeah. And so, we'll just have to see. But I think that he still has an opportunity to show something additional beyond what he's shown. And I think he's shown enough that I could buy into him being a backup player, a role player on this squad going into next season. And I would be okay with him at his salary, because his salary is nothing really at this point. His salary and whatever his transfer fee is, like I said, as long as it's under $250,000-300,000, I could easily buy into that. But he's coming from Liga MX, which means it's probably going to be like $750,000 for this player.
Yeah, definitely. So then Blues fan says Gil isn't even capable to performing even at his time at his other clubs, especially from his performances at OCSC.
He played fine at RSL. Get off the guy's back, dude. Come on.
Just kind of like a little point out there. I see OCSC and automatically I think Orange County SC.
Orlando City.
Yeah, I know it's Orlando City, but I was thinking Orange County.
No, I know.
Hashtag USL.
I know.
Another one was, you kind of touched upon the subject, but Henry Malta had asked about going down to RGV for AJ De La Garza. And then...
I mean, I didn't say this, but to answer that question, I don't think the Dynamo send him down for the same reason they haven't sent Kevin Garcia down. They've had cover for Kevin Garcia, even though Kevin Garcia has been injured. They've had cover for right back. They haven't needed to have Kevin Garcia on the bench. They've had him on the bench because they're paying him money for something. And if they, like I said, if they send him to RGV, they know that's going to disrupt RGV right now. And their focus at RGV is on the development of youth. Kevin is not a development youth player. He's not.
Not anymore?
Not anymore. Not at this point. And, so he's going to be at the Dynamo level in that system. He's got to improve if he wants to be a consistent player, and I don't think he's going to get there. I don't think he athletically has that.
I think he's reached his
capability.
peak already.
I agree completely, and I think the Dynamo know that. But I think the Dynamo also didn't expect to have Lundqvist at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think they expected Wenger to play as well as he did, because I don't think they planned on playing Wenger back there at the beginning of the season. It was Kevin Garcia's injury that forced them to play him back there.
So, Harry, if you're still out there, just be on the lookout for Kevin Garcia to San Antonio.
Yeah, that's probably coming up at the end of this season or when his contract expires, unless he asks to be released. Yeah, so that would be fun to watch at San Antonio, wouldn't it?
Well, whatever.
Our G players will blow by him so fast.
Chuy Enriquez.
Carlos Small.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, yes, we will.
Okay, so Riley Feldman also brings up another question. How will the Dynamo possibly hold on in the playoff race without Wilmer's favorite bench attacking option, Arturo Alvarez? He said sarcastically.
Arturo has been a player that I was really hyped about initially because I was like, oh, yeah, he's an older player, but he's still got something to offer. And he's turned out to be an absolute bust. But they didn't pay him a lot of money, so I'm okay. I mean, they didn't, he doesn't have a large salary, and we traded away an asset nobody cared about. So, I could live with it. But how is Wilmer going to fare in the lead up to the playoffs? We're going to make the playoffs. It's a bold statement at this point because we're still sitting in 7th. I think our advantage comes in that match in hand that we currently have, and on some teams we have 2 matches in hand because we've got 18 matches played. Most teams have 20 or 21 matches played. A few have 19. I think I feel very confident in saying we're going to make the playoffs. We're going to be one of those 5, 6, or 7, or 5 or 6 team, 5th or 6th teams. We're not going to be 4th or anything higher than that. I don't think. But I think you see it in how the team has played at home, the 2 matches leading up to this past weekend, in that they played some of the minus the match against LAFC for the first 90 minutes. But they played their best soccer of the season, in my opinion, against Minnesota. And that was a team that we had not ever beat in MLS play. That was a team that we struggled to score goals against consistently, and we went out and scored 3. Yeah. And it proved how vital Senderos is to this team because of his set-piece capability. His ability to get on the end of those balls on set pieces is phenomenal. And if Fuenmayor can continue to emulate that and we can continue to see more goals from Fuenmayor in that position, that just bodes well for the Dynamo's run because now they're not just reliant upon Elise and Kyoto and Tomas and Mauro. Now they get that extra element to their play, their extra element to their style of play where they can afford to just have their guys run at the end line, let the defender kick it out, and get an opportunity at a set piece. So I think that stretch was absolutely necessary leading up to this horrendous stretch of matches in a row where, we're playing, I think this is the 4 matches or 5 matches in 20 days or something, 15 days or something ridiculous. Yeah, so there's the answer to that question. I think we'll be fine. I'm not really overly concerned about it at all. One player does not make or break your season, and the Dynamo typically go for the low-risk, high-reward players. And, I mean, look at the way they're built their roster. It's almost consistently low-risk players.
Yes. And
even the players they bring in on loan and the players they bring in when they transfer them, they're low-risk when they bring them in because at least was a loan. He wasn't a buy. So even if he didn't pan out, it was a loan. And Alvarez is one of those players, if he's not here next season, he's not here next season. It doesn't impact our roster one way or the other. It just opens up a slot.
The fact we've gotten here so far, we haven't really used him. And
he's not been a necessity. And I don't think he's going to be useful for the rest of the season and leading into the playoffs. I don't think he is. I'd love to see him score some goals. I know there are some people, some Honduran, El Salvadoran fans that would just delight if the guy were to figure out how the hell to score a goal at this point, or at least beat a few players off the dribble. But I just don't see it happening. I think he's reached his point where athletically he's aged beyond his capability, and you're starting to see that decline now. And that's a shame because he was a fantastic player in his prime. He was a good player in his prime. Any other questions before we go to another break?
Just a comment. Peak mid-season Dynamo is us discussing Luis Gil and Kevin Garcia at any length. And then
You are not wrong.
and then Henry Maltez says was hoping Alvarez would turn into a Sanchez of last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all were on that boat where we all kind of were hoping that that's exactly what he would be. And I think the Dynamo hoped that he still had that in him. But again, low risk, high reward. If he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out. Your season is not dependent upon Alvarez's, how Alvarez plays. It's just not. And we've proved that by having a decent season so far. So when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more Dynamo, but we're also going to transition into the RGV Express because it's that time. Yes. And then after that, we're going to talk some Dash, and then we're going to close up shop for the evening.
Yeah. So guys, just remember that phone lines will be open for this second hour. The phone number is right over there. Right. Oh.
Wait, let's see. Do I point that way or do I point
that way? No, you just point up.
Point up. It's right above me.
Yeah.
That number right there.
Yeah. So be sure to call us if you guys want to give us your hot takes, or you guys want to talk anything about soccer that you want to bring up.
And also, do us a favor, because there's a couple of you that I don't recognize by name. Do us a favor and like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and just, again, share with your family, share with your friends. We want you guys tuning in every week. We want to grow this fan base for our show so that we can start doing some more stuff. We got some stuff we want to do, and it requires a bit bigger of a fan base to do it. So, yeah, definitely hook us up with some extra subscribers if you can. Don't cheat. There's no need to create a bunch of fake accounts because those eventually go away. No bots, please. Let's be legit. Let's prove that the Dynamo fan base is an awesome fan base because, let's be real, we are. And to close this segment, fuck Frisco. Let's go.
All right. Let's get
I should have had you ready for music at that point and just close it right there.
Move on.
we're back. This is Generation Orange, a Houston soccer podcast, video cast. Yeah. I don't know what else to say to that.
We were doing so good, man. Anyways.
What? That wasn't bad. It wasn't
I know,
terrible.
it was decent.
I just don't have anything else to say about it. I mean, we discussed Dynamo, we discussed Dash, we discussed RGV, we discussed Calvary, who, by the way, are doing really good or have been doing really well.
Yeah, they won the championship for their region, right?
Yeah, and they're I believe they're still in playoffs or something like that.
Yes, they are. They're going against. We'll talk about that later. Because we still got a lot of Dynamo stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and actually, with that being said, why don't you save the Calvary for Down in the Valley this week? And we'll use that to plug Down in the Valley. You can watch every Wednesday/Thursday. This week it's Thursday at 7 p.m. Central on the Down in the Valley channel. Same channel as the one we're on right now. I don't know where the... Subscribe, like, hit the button over there or wherever it is. Subscribe and like. If you subscribe to our channel, you get yourself a little bit of a help or a little bit of a benefit because you get the advantage of when we go live, you guys get notified. When we upload videos and post videos and publish videos, you guys get notified. It's the most fantastic thing in the world. So do yourself a favor, like, subscribe, and share.
Just an FYI, guys, in that regard, there should be a little, when you subscribe to the channel, there should be like a little bell icon. When you subscribe, that allows you to add the notifications whenever we go live or we upload anything.
And you can do the same. And you can also do the same thing on your phone too on the YouTube app. So definitely do that. It's worth it because, again, when you guys know we go live, that means you guys know we're live. It's the best thing in the world. Yeah. And you get to interact with us. And what's better than engaging with the guys of Generation Orange? It's fantastic.
Definitely. And really, thank you all of you who are listening in right now. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate every one of you who tune in live, and all of you that tune in after the fact and listen and watch later. We appreciate that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, but remember, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and like we said, if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel, and of course, don't forget to also subscribe to the Down in the Valley Gaming channel.
For sure, definitely, especially if you like gaming. If you're into gaming at all, watch our videos. You guys will like them. They're pretty damn funny, if I say so myself. Connor Donovan, I am so sorry. I did not mean that to be quite so insulting to you. If you watch the first video, you'll know what I'm talking about. With that said, I think that's a perfect segue into... Just kidding. I know we said we were going to talk RGV, but we realized there was a very important thing that we needed to talk about in this segment.
Let's not forget, this week is Rivalry Week.
Well, not only that.
Thank you,
we
SKC.
didn't discuss this either. Yeah, we didn't discuss that either.
Thank you, SKC.
So we've got SKC on Wednesday, tomorrow night,
yes,
in Open Cup play. And I think the simple fact is Dynamo are at home, which is going to make it tremendously difficult for SKC. And the Dynamo, while they're coming off a match and SKC are not coming off a match, I think the Dynamo are in perfect position to take it to SKC because the Dynamo rested some players in a way that allows them to be fresh for this match. And so I think we'll see how this one plays out, but I think it's going to be a fantastic match to attend. I have work obligations, so I will not be attending. But if you can attend this match, please do. If you need tickets, hit up Webb Tilton on Twitter. He is hooking people up with tickets that need tickets as best he can. He's connecting people with tickets that don't need them and people who want tickets that don't have them.
Yes.
So with that said, we want to, if you can, try to help us fill out that lower bowl. It really will be worth your time. It's going to be a fun match either way, but the Dynamo are coming away with a win. I'm predicting it right now. I'm calling it right now. And then that takes us into, because I really don't want to talk too long about Open Cup because frankly it's the Open Cup. And we can talk about the actual Open Cup later. But there's a match happening Saturday. And this is probably my favorite match of the season, every season, because we go against our rivals, absolute rivals, no question about it.
Okay.
And they're a team from Southern Oklahoma. They exist in that weird.
Wait, that actually exists? I thought that was
there is. So it's this weird twilight zone that exists between Oklahoma City, basically, and then Central Texas. It's just this weird void right there.
I don't know.
It's like a black hole. People go there and they never come back. I don't understand it.
I don't know. I thought it was some sort of imaginary land like Narnia or Wakanda.
Well, it can't be imaginary, right? Because we actually have to go there and play later on. So at some point, it has to be real. But it is definitely a. I said this about the land of Southern Oklahoma, also known as Frisco. I said this earlier in the week, probably on Dynamo Discord, but I might have said it on Twitter too. Frisco is the most suburbious suburb that ever suburbed.
There it is.
It is. I mean, it is a suburb in every sense of the word. And I've said this before as well. There's nothing to do in Frisco. People that live in Frisco, they don't come out to see the team because it sucks. I mean, just being real here, like they don't sell out their stadium unless another team is coming that's going to help them sell out the stadium. It's not like they're consistently selling out their stadium. Granted, we're not either, but their stadium's a whole hell of a lot smaller than ours, and it's a high school football stadium. It's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. Houston's always going to be better than Dallas, just always. Houston's always going to be better than Frisco, just always. It's just how it is. It's just there's just how it is. So I want your thoughts, those of you in the YouTube chat. What do you think about Frisco?
Don't forget to call, guys.
Yeah, how do you feel about the FCD match? What are your predictions for the match? We want your predictions for sure. Share with us what you think. We want to know your opinion. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know how you feel about this match going into this match. It's one of my favorite matches of the season because we're facing Dallas. Every time we face FCD, we come out with a purpose. And we saw it last year. Sure, we had a lot of draws last season against Dallas, but when we came out in those matches, we came out absolutely on fire. And I think the difference between last year and this year is we come out on fire consistently, but we've also learned how to secure the win at home. Mm-hmm. And so I think this one, I know this one as well is going to be a win. I just feel like we have the capability to pin Frisco back and keep them in their own third consistently.
We have a call.
Oh, sweet. Who is this? If you say your dad, I'm going to send you out of the room.
No, it's
not. Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Wait, hold on. It's my fault.
Hello? Welcome to Generation Orange. Who are we speaking with?
It's always me, Blues fan.
Hey,
what's up, Blues fan? We missed you.
Wow, that sounded really... Okay, I'm not going to say it. That just sounded really awkward, bro.
Well, at least we finally have a caller.
Well, and to be fair to Blues fan, he's our most consistent caller at this point, having called in now twice. And I really do want to get his opinion on the Frisco match, unless you had something else to talk about, and we'll let you talk about that first. But I still want your.
It's got to be Frisco.
It's got to be. I still want your opinion on Frisco. So give us your opinion on Frisco. Give us your opinion on this match. I also want your prediction. It's necessary. I want your prediction.
Ooh, I'm not sure about a prediction. It's always a tense game. It's always,
come on.
One of my favorite ones. But for me, this game means a lot. Last year, I had made my first year in the supporters group for the sole purpose of going to Frisco.
I
loved every game that I've gone for that one.
I take it you're not going to Frisco this year with the supporters group because they're banned.
We're not sure how they're planning it this year, but I'm hoping that they still will do the bus like they did last time.
Yeah.
If not, then I will find a way because I will still go with my little sister. That's right along my vacation, so that's the reason
awesome.
why I took it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I went last year with Julio, actually, my ticket rep, and I got to tell you, that was one of the best trips I've taken.
Which game last year?
The first one, the one that caused the one that caused all the ruckus. Yes,
that one was great.
Oh, it was fantastic. And so I'm sitting there, and where I was sitting in that match is I was on the far end of the supporters section, the section that had been assigned for the supporters, right between. I was literally 3 seats away from Dallas fans. It was fantastic. And they would yell, Frisco, and I would go, sucks. And I didn't say it super loud because there were kids around. I was trying to be appropriate. But I said it loud enough that the older people started laughing in a positive way. It was a very friendly interaction. And they just kept looking at me like, come on, dude, really? And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I'm not going to sit here and say your city and team doesn't suck because they do. It was great. And they actually, it was funny because it was very, like I said, it was a very friendly interaction, and I think it shocked a lot of the people that were near me because they're used to that not being the case. But it was very, it was very different than what a lot of people expect or think happens at those types of, in those types of matches. I think if it wasn't for the supporters group of Dallas, I think, and really, to be honest, their ownership and their front office, which are actually worse than ours, that rivalry would be stoked in a positive way. But that's okay because that rivalry gets stoked here at BBVA, and that's totally cool. We are perfectly fine with proving we're literally the best team in Texas because we're the only team in Texas right now. So Blues fan, go ahead.
It's always a joy, but it's always a joy. The first game, I think that was the first time we had any road points at that point of that season, so that was very memorable for that one.
Yes, it was. No, and that made it even better.
And then the third game that I went to right after they had sanctioned pretty much the entire supporters group, where they were still giving out tickets. You could still buy them relatively at that section, but they were very limited. And since I think the whole situation where Harvey made it even more tentative for people to go, they drove up on their own. So it was about a group of 30 at that one, and that actually took my friend to his first MLS game, which was a rivalry game away from home.
Yep.
So that right there stuck to me because 3-1 down, coming back, and then the heckling afterwards, which made it even better.
Oh, of course, absolutely. And I if I remember correctly, that match I was sitting in. Where were we at? We were at Eighth Wonder, and it was me and a couple of the guys from the Peel at the time, and Justin was so down after that first half, and then he was so not down at the end of that match. Like, it was a total different level. It was great. So all right, so how do you? I know we both love this match just because it's the first rivalry match of the season against Frisco. It's always fun against Frisco. How do you feel going into this match about the match itself? What do you think our chances are? Are we going to take it to Frisco? Is this going to be a super tight affair? How are you feeling as far as that goes?
This one's going to be a very tense game where it's going to be more open. It's always going to be open. There's going to be plenty of the fouls. It's just a question of what lineup we bring out against them. It's interesting how we're rotating it, and I'm not sure if Wilmer will be willing to play the same full strength lineup twice, or will he sub out some players?
I don't know if he's
for the game for the.
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily going to play the full strength lineup for Wednesday either, but I think he also doesn't want to play a weak lineup Wednesday, which is why he played what he did on Saturday last week. So again, it made sense. I was a little bit more than upset because it was Colorado, but. And I feel your pain on that because it was definitely a good opportunity for us to take some points where we desperately could have used some additional points. But I also definitely understand where the team is coming from, that you have to pick and choose your battles. And unfortunately, you are absolutely going to go into Frisco with everything you've got, and you can't sit back in SKC just because it's Open Cup. So, if you're looking at the 3 matches, if you have to pick one match to kind of just phone it in, it was Colorado, always going to be Colorado. So it'll be interesting to see how Wednesday plays out, because I think how Wednesday plays out will dictate a little bit of how Saturday will play out. And I hope Senderos starts Saturday because I could see him notching yet another goal, and wouldn't that just be lovely?
The thing is, I was talking to a few people, especially for Sporting Kansas City, to see what lineup they would pull out. That Wednesday game actually has me interested because there's a player that they have that's coming back, and is a live wire on the ball. Felipe Gutierrez.
Yeah,
he might
DP.
make either a start or a 30-minute appearance, which scares me to death because he's like Diaz, but times 2 or 3. From what I've seen,
I do feel like he's likely to cause some havoc for our back line. But the one thing to keep in mind, and I've said this over and over regarding our back line and our defense in general, they consistently rank this season in the top 7 in every defensive category. What that means is, regardless of who we've played, we've maintained our defensive quality for the most part. And so it just tells me that, you know, while and again, that's been against players like Vela, that's been against players like De Rossi, that's been against players like Ibrahimovic. I mean, that's been against really good strikers and players, and yet we've handled them all. I mean, we handled Villa for the most part. I mean, yeah, he got his goal, but it took a golazo from him to get that goal, and he was limited in chances other than that one goal. So, you know, I just look at our defense and I think to myself that, you know, they've played well enough this season to secure plenty of points. I think they can show it in SKC, but are here against SKC. But I think it depends, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think it depends on what lineup we use, who we trot out there. You know, we could very well see possibly Connor Donovan called up. No, it's not happening. I wish we would, because he's coming off that fantastic goal. Which, by the way, speaking of which, this is not directed at you, Blues, but this is in general. If you have not voted for USL Goal of the Week for Connor Donovan, get your button gear. Edson's going to go find that video and the link so you can vote. He's going to post it to Twitter, and he's going to post it in the YouTube chat if he can figure out how to post links in the YouTube chat. So make sure you vote. Vote. Connor Donovan, without a doubt, deserves it. That was a howler and a screamer. Howler in a positive light. It was a screamer of a goal from really far out. And, like, you don't see it coming. It didn't look like he hit it that hard, but, man, did that sucker fly into the net. So, anyways, with that said, go vote Connor Donovan. Anyways, back to Frisco. So yeah, Gutierrez against SKC, or that's probably the one we most have to worry about. At least they don't have Latif Blessing anymore, because he was a terror against us because of his speed. Who from Frisco is your biggest concern, either offensive or defensively? Either way.
Offensively would be, it has to be Barrios. Barrios has always been one of those players I've annoyed with, but when he's on it, it's a scary threat. The combination of his speed and ability to pass the ball through.
He reminds me a lot of Maxi Morales for NYCFC. Same type of player.
And for the defense is actually Reggie Cannon. If they're able to overload the right side, he's a guy that can get the crosses in, which we've been very suspect with. It's not like a big deal, but it's a possibility that he gets a good cross in, and from there, I'm not sure how we handle it at the time.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I think if Senderos starts, I think we'll be fine. Usually when Senderos starts, we're pretty solid in the air, dealing with crosses into the box. When it's Leonardo and Machado lining up next to each other, I get a little concerned, because that's usually when we're going to let in a header goal or a cross into the box that passes somebody up that they didn't clear out or whatever. So my hope is Senderos starts Wednesday, and I kind of hope Senderos also starts Saturday. I think him not traveling to Colorado kind of signaled that the team kind of planned to play him both matches, to be honest with you. And he probably won't play 90 for both. He'll probably play 60 for one or 70 for one, and then play how much ever he needs to in the second. But either way, I agree with you completely. I think Barrios has got to be, for Frisco, has got to be their biggest threat to us because of how we play and because of how they play. Because it's not Mauro Diaz. Cannon is definitely interesting. That's an interesting choice. I would have never never considered that one, but yeah, those crosses, man, they can be.
That's fantasy right there. Just watching it.
It's like in Rocket League when I watch a ball fly over my head and it goes in the goal, and I'm like, oh crap. Same type of thing. Anyways, so any other thoughts before we have to let you go, Blues?
One thing, actually, when I was watching the videos for the Dynamo on their YouTube channel, there was a sign that you held up.
Yes.
I just could never read what was on that sign.
Okay, so
it was the ink was too
yeah,
thin.
I know. And thanks for rubbing it in, you jerk. So that, and I know you know what it says because I said it in Discord chat, but I'll say it again just for you. That sign said he was offside, and then it had hashtag MLS officiating. And that match followed the last week without VAR, where and I don't remember who it was. It was Alessandrini was offside, and he was not even like remotely close to being onside. He was offside by like 5 yards. and they didn't whistle it. They didn't call it because the AR was out of position. And again, it was the week right before they switched to AR or VAR, which would have prevented that goal from being allowed, which would have secured a draw for us. I think. I know it was we were winning. That was the draw.
You were winning that one.
So that was a 2
I
point.
remember that game.
And of course, it happened the week before VAR was instituted. I mean, that was the worst part of it. We were all like, of course, we have to be the team that gets screwed the week before VAR.
Especially at a midnight game.
That was so hard, dude. It was just bad. But yeah, that's what that sign said. And yes, you can see it in the video.
Something tells me that it was edited out.
It wasn't. It wasn't. You can't read it because it's real thin lettering. I used a thin marker. I didn't like. You can see Reagan in there next to me. She filled it in real thick, and then I'm like little thin lines over here. It just, it didn't work well for being able to see it, but that's okay. I got on camera, and that's all that matters.
Lucky you.
And her sign, for anybody who hasn't read it in the video, it actually says you have to be this tall to score a goal, and that is a joke on Barrios because he's so freaking short. So I thought that was great. Anyways, so Blues, all right, well, cool. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for calling in. We definitely appreciate it. And feel free to call.
Predictions, though, no?
Well, you said you weren't going to give us predictions, so I was trying to let you off.
I don't want to jinx the team. That's kind of why I don't want to.
All right, I'll make you a deal.
One of those things.
Yeah, I'll make you a deal. No prediction for Wednesday or Friday, but I want your prediction for the matches following this week. So after this week, I want your predictions for the next couple of matches, okay?
All right.
You can do that. You don't have to do that now. You call in next week, or you give it to me in Dynamo Discord, and we'll square away on that one later. All right, so I'm okay with that. All right, Blues. Anything else before you go? Or are you good?
I'm good.
All right, man. Have a good one. Thank you for calling in, and we'll talk to you again at some point.
All right.
Later, man.
Later. So, by the way, say hi because you are surrounded by streamers now.
Why am I sorry? Oh. Hashtag no streamers. Hashtag no fun Frisco. No fun Frisco. NFF. No fun Frisco.
This should scare away any Frisco fans that are trolling or lurking around
they
here.
They don't watch our show anyways because we actually talk truthful, honest stuff, and they don't like that. It was just like when I was talking to that guy on Twitter, and he kept trying to throw the same thing at me over and over, and I'm like, dude, can you come up with another argument at least?
Explain that. That sounds really interesting. I'm sure a lot of people would like to know what happened.
So I don't even remember. Oh, no. So it started because the Dynamo posted the video of not video, but the graphic that displays all of the statistics from the rivalry matches going years back. And, Cisco and Wilson had some fun with it, and they were going back and forth about, things Houston has and Frisco doesn't. And that was great in and of itself. And then, I had said, I said most important, don't forget the 2 MLS Cups, because they actually, while they showed the stars above the crest in one of the spots, they didn't actually show the 2 cups and Frisco not having one. And so one of the Frisco fans, I don't know why he felt the need. I mean, it just kind of says everything that this guy is watching at Dynamo Twitter to begin with, and responding to Dynamo Twitter. But he was like, his argument was, well, those were San Jose trophies because it was the San Jose team. And while he's not wrong, they were playing in Houston at the time, regardless of where they came from. We were just smart enough to get a pre-built team. Frisco tried to do that with the Dallas Burn, then becoming FC Dallas. But the problem was that even then FC Dallas kind of sucked. I'm sorry, Dallas fans, but the reality is that Houston, the Dynamo specifically, have 2 MLS Cups. They're actually in the Dynamo front office. And I made this comment to the guy. If he wants, I can go get pictures of them because I know people that work in the Dynamo front office and send them because I know he hasn't actually seen what that MLS Cup looks like because Frisco's only been to the MLS Cup once and they didn't succeed at actually winning. Unlike the Dynamo, who've been 4 times and won at least twice, which is still 2 times more than Dallas. And so anyway, so we went back and forth for a little bit, and, Cisco chimed in a couple of times, and, ultimately it was pretty funny because his whole argument was based on your team is not very good because you guys, if you exclude those 2 MLS Cups, you guys haven't done anything. And my response to him was, you just basically said your team sucks because your team has no MLS Cups either in the same amount of time. And I just kind of left it at that. And Wilson had a good response, and he goes, "Ooh, a self-burn. Very rare." I was like, I was very proud of that moment because it was fantastic. Anyways, it ended actually very cordially, which was hilarious in and of itself. And again, he does have a point. I mean, technically, the Dynamo have not won any MLS Cups.
But we've been closer to winning another one than Frisco.
That's not true. Frisco did make it recently, 3 or 4 seasons ago, but they didn't win.
Yeah, but I mean, we've won 2, and then how many other?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, we've won more MLS Cups than they have, and they probably will have in the next 10 years as well. So regardless of anything else, we've won 2 MLS Cups, and they haven't. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Also, we've won the Cannon more. We've kept El Capitan and won it more than they have. We also have, I think the record actually, reasonably speaking, the record is pretty close, but I think we actually do own the record right now.
So, Blues fan, here's another thing Blues fan brings up. Got to remember, Frisco has been in the league since its inception. How do you go all the way through with 0?
1995, I believe, was when they started the Dallas Burn, and they became Frisco in 2005. So they had 10 years as Dallas Burn. Actually, it might have been even a little more than that. They had a few years as the Dallas Burn, didn't win it. And then they became FC Dallas, FC Frisco in 2005, and they still haven't won it. And so that's 13 years as FC Frisco, FC Dallas, still haven't won it. So to clarify, the Dynamo, in the same number of years, actually fewer, because we came into existence in 2006, they came into existence in 2005, have won 2 more cups. We have been to more MLS Cups than them. And we've moved leagues twice and have still managed to maintain a pretty decent pace. Also, just because I didn't bring this up before, but I feel it's very necessary to this conversation now, we made the playoffs last season. Where was Frisco? Right, they were sitting and watching on their couches. They didn't make the playoffs. Fuck Frisco. With that, we're going to go to break because it's 8:36 and I'm thirsty.
All right. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Can you feel it? The fire in your soul, leaving at the chance for love. Can you feel it? Haunting your senses, letting all your feelings go. But I can feel it rushing through my veins. Your love's the only drug I know. But we've been playing the hand now we're dead, so we can light it up. I know that we can make it through the night, but I can feel the fire inside, so there won't be no fear tonight. We crossed the line, and now it's clear to see the light behind the suffering. Believe we'll finally be free. Let the silhouette cast upon your heart, turning every little moment into scars. Baby, it's our chance to make a start, so we can fly.
That we will make it. I know that we will make it. I know that we will make it. I know that we.
And we're back. You're listening to Generation Orange, Houston Soccer Podcast / Videocast. We air every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central on Down in the Valley YouTube. Like,
Bye-bye,
share,
streamers.
subscribe. What was that?
Bye-bye, streamers.
Oh, I said Steelers. I was like, what? Huh? I was totally lost and confused. I thought maybe that was a, Patriots joke or something. Bye-bye, Steelers.
No.
No, I know, that's what I was like. I was trying to figure it out. So we've made the executive decision that we still have enough to talk about that we're going to go probably 15 to 30 minutes over. I know everybody's super excited about that.
I know Cass is.
Clearly, he's like, I need out. Let me out. Sorry, Cass, you're going to wait. You're fine. So we talked Frisco. We talked SKC. We've talked Dynamo. But there's one thing we haven't talked about yet, and that is transfers. So the Dynamo have transferred in, as everybody knows by now, Ronaldo Peña. As we discussed last week, the lesser-known Ronaldo. And he's been brought in to play kind of backup center forward, backup striker. And it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out with him. Questions have been asked about transfers, any pending transfers. I made the comment recently a couple of times that I had been told and had it on good authority that the Dynamo were looking to make additional transfers and possibly additional trades. I have been told now, and from a confirmed source, I'm going to let him out in a minute, that is not happening, and that what had been planned and what was being worked on is not going to happen. Now, with that said, it could still happen. They could still. They could still manage to work it out and figure it out, but what they had been working on has been put on hold due to hurdles they can't seem to overcome. I can also say pretty strongly that the amount that they paid for Peña is probably a lot more than people expect. I'm not going to state the amount on the air because it could possibly burn my source, but it was way more than I expected. And it's interesting because for a player like Peña that's an unproven young player who I'm not expecting to start, and I don't think most of our listeners and most Dynamo fans expect to start anytime soon, the amount that they paid, I would expect that out of a starter for the Dynamo. So it was interesting, and to hear that amount and kind of have to think through why they might have paid that amount. But on the flip side, no more transfers likely means that, at least we know what we have for the rest of the season. We know what we're going to be able to put out on the field. We know what the talent level is going to be. We know who we have. We know what we're working with. And what we're working with is good enough right now to continue the form that we're on, which is actually pretty solid form, all things considered. And we have enough depth at various positions that I think will be just fine. It will be interesting to see long-term how it pans out, especially going into the offseason when the time does come. But there's still a lot of soccer to be played this season, and we have 16 matches left in the season, 8 home, 8 away, which I think is great. Very balanced schedule. And we play like 7 of them in the next 5 days. No, I'm just kidding. We play quite a few in this month. I think we play 5 or 6 in this month alone. Mm-hmm. But again, quite a few matches left, quite a lot of soccer left to play, still a lot of positional things to figure out. And again, we have games in hand on teams above us, so that'll be interesting. Let me know if anybody asks a question. I'm going to step away to go deal with Cass real quick.
Actually, yeah, just quick. So, Blues fan asks, do you think it's a move made in preparation for Manotas' possible leave as he's on his final year of his contract, or if he's committed to returning to Colombia?
I think that is exactly, the first part of that is exactly what the Dynamo are trying to do, is just make protection for themselves in case he does leave. Let's face it, they had nobody in line with Max Steves having the injury he has. It's going to take him a while to come back. That's not something you just come back and bounce back from right away.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they weren't going to leave it in Max Steves' hands anyways. So I do think that there is some protection in that regards, but I also think that the Dynamo feel comfortable enough with Quintanilla that if they had to go Peña Quintanilla next season because because Maro's contract is up, they would feel comfortable enough to do that at this point, which I think is good for Quintanilla overall. And it's also, as we've stated before, very good for RGV to see RGV players reach that MLS level because it means that the system is doing exactly what the system is designed to do. All right, I'm gonna step away for a minute, and then talk. You have to talk now.
All right. So, having said this, welcome to RGV Express for Down in the Valley. Oh, what was that? Anyways, so welcome to everybody's favorite segment of Generation Orange. Okay, so first things first. RGV finally got the win. That's great, Mike. Thank you. So RGV finally got their second win of the season, first win since the end of April. That is 11 matches that they either drew or lost. Well, we finally got a win this past Saturday against Las Vegas Lights and all of their eccentricity, and that's putting it lightly right there. So Las Vegas actually came in to this match having lost 6-4 against Oklahoma City Energy, and the Toros came into this match with another tie. If I'm not mistaken, I got a lot of stuff thinking about. They actually tied against Tulsa Roughnecks 1-1, but then they had a mid-week match friendly against Santos Laguna of Liga MX, in which the team, you looked at this match, you looked at this team, and you're like, where the hell was this team this whole season? It was like crisp defending, crisp transition from defense to attack. Jordan Jones being, clinical on goal. You had, first of all, the first thing that happened was Pablo Aguilar scores a beautiful free kick. And then before the end of the first half, you had Todd Warden, who quickly takes a throw-in and sends it over to Jordan Jones, who out-muscles the defenders and is able to get past Acevedo for the second goal of the day. And then in the second half, Santos started to bring in their starting 11 into the match. But even with Giannini Tavares, even with Julio Furch, even with Osvaldito Martinez, who are their best players so far, they could not find a goal against the defenders. And if they were able to get past the defenders, Matt Sanchez was just phenomenal back there. And in the end, the third goal was scored, if I'm not mistaken, by a Team Monday. And then the fourth, and so the final score was 3-0 in that match. It was a surprise for everybody, including myself. And one of the things that was mentioned to me by people I know from the organization was that this match was going to expect a surprise, on Saturday. Expect a completely different, continue the same formation that he used against not Las Vegas Lights, against Santos, as well as you're going to see that that match was going to be a huge lift of motivation for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. And so,
go ahead.
And so that came, and then on Saturday, like I said, you had Connor Donovan scored a beautiful screamer from outside the box.
Oh, man.
Which is, like I said, we mentioned before, is up for USL Goal of the Week, Week 18.
Go vote.
Yeah, so go ahead, go and vote for Connor Donovan. And then in the second half, you had... So here's the surprising thing about this match. One of the differences, we'll get more into detail on Thursday for Down in the Valley. and that is that Coach Gerson Echeverry is trying out a new formation for the Toros. We used to use the 4-2-3-1 formation with two wingers, and then Aldo Quintanilla with Pablo Aguilar or Matias Aldivar behind Aldo Quintanilla. Somehow it just didn't seem to work.
Yeah.
Now he's using more of a 4-3-2-1.
Yep.
Or 4-3-1-2. He's playing with two strikers. He's playing with two strikers up on top right now. We will have some audio from Coach Echeverry explaining why he's choosing this formation now. And so the starting lineup for that match, you had Michael Nelson starting against Las Vegas. You had Kai Green, Connor Donovan, Omar Ontiveros, Sheldon Sullivan in defense. Nico Perea and Jorginho James out in the central defensive midfielders. You also had Todd Warden in that line as well. And then you had Pablo Aguilar, and up on top you had Jordan Jones and Wilmer Cabrera Jr. Mm-hmm. And so the team looked really good in the beginning. In the couple beginning minutes of the match, the midfield was kind of like really iffy with their passing, especially Jorginho. Mm-hmm. But as time went on, it seems like they felt a little bit more secure about themselves. And it was rare for in the first half. It was rare for the Las Vegas to actually put any danger towards Michael Nelson's goal. In fact, they had just one shot, and I'm not talking on target, just one.
Yeah, one shot.
One shot in the first half.
Shot too. It wasn't close.
Yeah,
it was like a long way.
Yeah,
away.
definitely. And then in the second half, it was a whole lot different. Las Vegas probably made some modifications because they looked more. They looked more dangerous out there. RGV actually had an opportunity early in the second half, which was howled. But after that, it was mostly Las Vegas. And I know what's his name? I'm trying to remember his name. Daigo Kobayashi had one like right in the 6-yard box, all alone. Michael Nelson would not have reacted off of a cross.
Yeah.
He the way he hit it. It bounced on the ground first, and then it went high up the crossbar, and then a minute later, that's when you had this counterattack by Aldo Quintanilla 2v1, and then Chuy Enriquez coming over to help him, running as fast as he could, from his own box, and then slotting it in for the final 2-0 score. Yeah. So interesting to point out, one last thought for RGV Express. Interesting to point out that what has been kind of a tendency for Gerson Echeverry now, and it has been that he starts with this new formation with two strikers up on top.
And then he closes out.
And he closes out with the regular 4-3-2-1, but bringing in Bryce Marion and Chuy Enriquez, which I continue to say Bryce Marion has definitely helped out RGVFC with a breath of fresh air out on the attack. And the fact is, with Bryce Marion out on the pitch, you don't have to rely 100% on what Chuy Enriquez does.
Yeah.
And so defenders right now, instead of having double or triple teaming Chuy Enriquez, now they have to worry about Bryce Marion out on the right-hand side as well. So it gives a lot more space for Chuy Enriquez to do what he does best.
Absolutely. Absolutely 100% yes. And I just thought it was interesting that immediately following the show that we had last week, where we talked very extensively about RGV, we talked about how they could make improvements and how Derek coming down would improve things and would change things and how things were going to improve. And it's just very nice to be vindicated yet again on something else that was said. That improvement's going to happen. You just have to give it time.
Yeah.
So another caller, is that a text message? Okay.
No, just checking something.
Gotcha.
We have a couple of, it's Cisco.
We have a couple. Well, it's Cisco.
Yeah, but he's got a couple of questions.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
So the first one, he says he wonders if it was the fact that we're playing against a big club. Okay, number one, hold on a minute. Number one, Santos is not a big club. Okay, it's kind of.
Compared to USL level, they are.
Well, they're still a small club. So, anyways, if the fact they're playing an important club in this confederation, I think better. brought out the best of these teams. Now, think about it. You got a couple of players like Chuy and like Aldo that have played in Liga MX.
Yep.
And so they know what playing against the champions of Liga MX. Doesn't matter if you're playing the scrubs. Doesn't matter if you're playing the first string. You're playing against the current champion of Liga MX. Of course, that is going to bring out the best of them. And the fact that these players right now, Chuy and Aldo, have a little bit of influence over the rest of the players right now.
Yeah.
You know, that helps, you know, bring up this competitiveness of, hey, you know what? This might be a friendly, but number one, we need a positive result to continue on. And number two, the fact that we can not only beat Santos, but make a fool out of them.
Yeah.
To the fact that when Santos was playing against Tigres in the Campeón de Campeones on Sunday, they mentioned San Antonio and they were about to mention RGVFC's results. But then
Aquino
Javier,
missed. Oh, he missed.
I hate you, Aquino.
He missed.
I was already getting ready to like, oh yes, here's my moment, and then that happened, and then they stopped talking about it. I was like, oh
But
man.
you know what? It didn't matter if they were talking about it or not because
Just the fact that they're talking about USL
in general,
Mexico.
Well, what I was going to say is that turnout for the Santos match at HEB Park was actually a quite solid turnout. So I wanted to give good credit and good kudos to the Valley for showing up for that match. I mean, it wasn't a sellout by any stretch of the imagination, but for an exhibition match, there were quite a few people there. And yes, most of them were there for Santos, but for RGV to put on that kind of a show in front of their home crowd and in front of a lot of Santos fans, that's going to change things. That's in a positive way. And I said it on Twitter. I asked, is this the thing that ignites them, that pushes them forward? Is this what they've needed? Is that one defining win to say, holy crap, guys, we really can do this. Like, we're not outmatched. We just have to think through how we're going to approach this. And I think they showed a lot. It's Las Vegas. Let's take a bit of a breather. But they showed that they can carry that forward. And it's the confidence booster they've needed. They're a young squad. Young attacks need the confidence to build on. And I think they built on it. And so now, can they continue to build? Can they continue that trajectory up? Because if they can, then while I still don't see them making the playoffs this year, the sky's the limit next year because now not all these players will be here next year, but the core group of these players will probably still be there next year.
Now, think about it this way. We have 7 matches at home left in the season. That's 21. And that's including this Las Vegas one.
Yeah, 21 points.
With 21 points, left
18,
just at home.
18 points if you exclude.
Yes.
But still, 18
left
points.
in the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we can follow the rubric that you talk about a lot, which is win at home and tie it away.
Yeah. Win at home and just get a result of some kind of way as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's still a mathematical possibility. And until that mathematical possibility exists, we continue to play in this same form.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything is absolutely possible.
Especially in the USL.
And especially with this form. That's the key. They have to be on this kind of form. And so, can they carry it forward? I think they can. But here's the thing, and this goes out to RGV listeners in general. I'm not even going to include fans necessarily, but get yourself out to the stadium. Support this club. Regardless of how you feel about the club, they're starting that upward swing. They need you out there so they can make a serious hurt on the teams above them and make a serious push for the playoffs. Because at the end of this season, they could make the playoffs, and you could be an absolute essential part of that run.
And think about it. Our attendance isn't great, but you can still hear them on the broadcast,
It's
especially
loud.
when they score.
Yeah.
Imagine with a full stadium
Absolutely.
cheering for RGV.
Absolutely.
And trust me, a lot of people may not think of it, but the players and the coaches really appreciate
They
when
feed Well, not only that, but they feed off it. It drives them and pushes them forward. Think about how many times Dynamo players have said how important, and really, if you think about any team in any league, how often they say how important their home fans are for being loud, for being boisterous, for being, just being that extra person, that extra bit of energy that they need at the end of a match to secure a win or to make sure that this match stays a draw, whatever it may be. So all I'm saying is, look, you can be that extra. You can be that extra that RGV needs to possibly make the playoffs. I say I still don't think they will, but that doesn't mean they can't. Get out there, support them, show the support, show them love. They're trying their best. They're putting everything forward. Proof is in the pudding. They won on Saturday. You know what? They proved it against Santos. I think they're going to continue the form, and if they continue to win, I promise you RGV will start showing up again. And it's going to be great.
It'll be
because you're going to have a
glorious.
smile on your face again, finally.
I have a smile right now.
Well, that's because we're talking exciting, happy things.
Yes.
But last week, that was not so much a smile. So,
So, one quick question before we talk a little bit about Brazos Valley. Okay.
no, we said we were going to save that for your actual Down in the Valley segment.
Okay.
Or Down in the Valley show.
Okay. So Cisco also asks a question for Leader, but is Tyler Derrick training with RGVFC? And if when should you
Yes,
expect
he
him
is.
to get a game? He is, and they're mentioning that they're expecting him to play a couple of games with RGV, but
Yep.
they feel like
Yep.
I think he's going to be ending
Yep.
the season with Houston.
Exactly. He's probably going to go anywhere between. He's probably going to be out there about a month, which is understandable, about a month, and then he's going to come back.
Well, what they did tell me from where I asked around is that he's got a long way to go to get back, but
yeah.
you see flashes of
Who he was.
why he was the starting keeper for the Dynamo.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it also depends on.
Oh, go ahead.
That was weird. Sorry, heard a buzzing, and I was trying to figure out what it was.
That's the phone.
Oh, was it? Okay. He's still a fantastic goalkeeper. I think he still has plenty to prove, plenty to show. And I hope he can get fully back, and move on from what he's been going through and dealing with. And good luck, Tyler. We're rooting for you. We're cheering for you. We want to see you back in Orange very, very soon. And go help RGV get a few more wins out there. Make Edson super happy. So one other bit of news, kind of tied to RGV. Wow, that was really weird. I'm just kidding. Tied to RGV, kind of. Yesterday. It was yesterday, I think. Today. I don't know.
No, I think it was yesterday. But if
Yesterday
I'm
was
thinking
announced.
what you're thinking,
Yeah, you are. James Clarkson was announced as basically stepping down from the director of the Dynamo Academy system, and they have brought in the academy director from San Jose. I don't remember his first name. Holakan is his last name. I don't remember his first name. Paul Holakan, maybe? I don't know, something. So he's been brought in, and I've been trying to ask around to find out about San Jose prospects and how he's done with the academy up there. And one of the guys that I respect a lot for his writing and his soccer mind, Robert Jonas, wrote an article actually on it, which in and of itself is a big deal because he typically doesn't write articles for the academy. He wrote an article on his departure and said that he was an amazing, incredible director of the academy. That the guy has a really sharp soccer mind and understands how to build an academy and how to improve academies and how to make the academy system overall better than it has been for them, and how he was able to take an academy system that was struggling and actually improve it to a point where it was starting to succeed significantly, which was impressive. So I'm looking forward to having him there, and also just for anybody curious, because I know somebody asked, I think it was Tony Rubio asked this question, what's happening with James Clarkson? He's not going anywhere. He's going to continue with the Dynamo front office. Just not as the director of the academy. I don't know what his official position will be. That may be announced at some later date. But for the time being, he's still part of the Dynamo front office for sure. So kudos to James Clarkson because it's all got to be a positive move forward for him. Welcome, Holakan. We're definitely looking forward to what you do with the academy. Yay, things.
I mean, you wanted a change in that position since the beginning of the season.
I did, because we haven't seen enough. And I'm going to say this, and I said this on Twitter. The way the Cavalry are playing right now, and this is for you as well for tomorrow, or Thursday, as well as the Cavalry are playing right now, shows me that the academy players are very good, that we are getting talent out of the academy players, and that there is just that missing link right now with RGV. And if they can figure that out, which I think they're starting to, if they can figure that out in the long term, we're going to have players coming in consistently year over year over year into the Dynamo. We're going to have such a wealth of talent in our talent pool, that we're going to be able to trade away a lot of these assets for better assets. And that's exciting because that's not been something we've even been able to consider. And I think we're getting, 3-4 years out at this point, and I think we'll start to see that capability to where we can start moving some of these young players to create an even better roster, which will be great. With that said, let's go ahead and go to another break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk Dash, and then I think we're going to close out the night after we talk Dash. And I don't think this conversation will be too long, but if it is, we'll talk Dash and NWSL because there was some other NWSL stuff that came out today. So.
They don't know how we do it. They'll never get it anyway. Conquering the impossible, all with a smile on our face. We work hard, we play harder, we push it to the limit, going farther and farther. We work hard, we play harder, we push it to the limit, going farther and farther. Grind all day, we dance all night. We're body freaks and nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. Grind all day, we dance all night. We're body freaks and nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. Body freaks, body freaks. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. We work hard, we play harder, we push it to the limit, going farther and farther. We work hard, we play harder, we push it to the limit, going farther and farther. Grind all day, we dance all night. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. Grind all day, we dance all night. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. They don't know how we do it. They'll never get it anyway. Conquering the impossible, all with a smile on our face. Grind all day, we dance all night. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. Grind all day, we dance all night. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. We're body freaks, body freaks. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. Grind all day, we dance all night. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks. Grind all day, we dance all night. We're body freaks on nature, we're body freaks, body freaks.
You paint me red in this light that isn't mine. Finding every reason you can find to question my love. Remember that it's not me. I was never the one who broke your heart. We both know I've been gentle from the start. So although the the questions keep on coming this time. You know that I'll listen. You know I'll be patient with you. You're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me. You'll know I'll be faithful to you. You're my baby.
And we're back for the final segment of Generation Orange. Dash stuff. I was trying to think of some clever, funny name, and nothing came to mind. So the Dash played the Portland Thorns this weekend and lost 3-2.
3-1.
3-1. Wasn't sure if we scored a goal. That one hurts. Pretty much officially knocks them out of playoff contention, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, technically they're still in playoff contention, but
They're 8 points away. If it was the top 4, right?
yeah, top 4.
Yeah, they're 8 points away.
I mean, they still could, but the teams ahead of them are going to make it very difficult for them.
Yeah, like really.
Yeah. So that wasn't the big thing. Also, side note, Kaya Simon and Polkinghome were called up for the Australian national team for international duty, so that's good. Congrats to those two. The NWSL news, and this was important. Something happened today, and it's come out. There was an article that came out.
Ding.
Yeah, it's my spaghetti that I warmed up. An article came out which outlined and talked about through player interviews, coach interviews, staff interviews, etc., the deplorable conditions that players have been subjected to that have played for Sky Blue FC. And it was interesting to me because that was a team that Carly Lloyd went to. Sucks for her.
Oh, I got you with that article.
Yeah. So feel free to send that out.
Yeah.
Talking about just I mean, we're talking just terrible, absolutely terrible conditions, expectations that were just absurd for what they were subjecting the girls to, etc. And so it created a pretty big wave of bad PR for NWSL and for Sky Blue FC. So I just wanted to bring it up because I wanted it to be shared out from our account, and I wanted you to be aware of it. For those of you that like the Dynamo, I think it's important for us to support the Dash as well. And it's even more important for us to support NWSL. Just like I said with RGV last week, there's no right to a soccer team. We don't have a right to a sports team, but especially a soccer team. It's a privilege to have a soccer team. It's a privilege to have a women's soccer team, and we need to treat it like a privilege. And so we should be thankful. We should be grateful. Yes, they're struggling, but we should be appreciative of the fact that we even have a women's soccer team because, let's be real, not a lot of cities do.
No.
It looks very likely that New Jersey may not have one either very soon.
Yeah. So just kind of want to mention the comments Kerr. She said, I wish I could take every single one of them with me, but that's not the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And basically...
And that was when she was traded from Sky Blue FC to Chicago Red Stars as part of the Carly Lloyd, Morgan Bryan trade triangle thing that was originally going to bring Kristen Press here, but Press instead went to play for Utah Royals after going overseas to play in Sweden for 3 months.
Yeah, so one of the things they mentioned is the general manager who will manage. They talk about the inadequate locker room and training facilities, tough travel conditions, disorganized front office, near total disconnect from ownership, and severe housing problems. That is bad, the housing problems.
Yeah, and to be fair, the Dash have a few of those items on their list as well. You look at the front office, it's pretty bad, pretty disorganized, pretty bad. Housing issues, I think the only reason they don't have housing issues is because of one Haley Carter, who has stepped up to house every year, season over season, 2, 3, 4 different players, sometimes 5 or 6. She has more than willingly opened up her home because she was in that position not that long ago. So credit to her. She's amazing. And if you don't follow her on Twitter, follow her on Twitter.
We love her and we appreciate Haley Carter.
Yes, we do. And if Haley ever wants to call in, hey Haley, you absolutely may call in anytime you want.
It'd be an honor.
And you will have open mic, so you will be able to say whatever you want. And I expect you not to hold anything back because that's just how you are. So along the same lines, I want to say that I'm working with Hal Kaiser to try to get him on the show, actually for a show. So it'll be good. Hal Kaiser was part of Keeper Notes. He was part of covering the Dash for a couple of seasons. He was really the primary source of Dash news and Dash info. He had to step away just because it wasn't financially viable to consider that long term or continue doing it long term. And so he wants to come on the show. I've talked to him, and we'll get him on once his personal life cools down a little bit so that he can actually do that. But we are working through it and getting to that point where we're going to have him on. That's really all I had. I just wanted to point that out. I think it's deplorable. It's deplorable from the aspect of, first of all, these are professional soccer players, regardless of what league they're in, regardless of who they are. They're professional soccer players. No sports athlete should ever be subjected to that kind of playing conditions, and essentially living conditions, if you will.
And so basically, not only that, but the fact that they're forced to stay silent. One of the paragraphs that really caught my attention right now, and it says, there was, and to a certain extent still is, a culture of silence around the team. Stanley said, I was told once by an older player not to say anything because we don't have a leg to stand on because we're not a winning team. And that we need to just be happy to have a team, a league, or they'll take it away.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, right?
That's blackmail.
It is. I mean,
in a looser sense.
It'd be hard to stand up in court, but
no, I know, but in the loose sense of the word,
absolutely, no, I mean it is, but it's important because the players are starting to stand up for themselves. They're starting to not take that, and to be fair, while this is about Sky Blue FC, this is a pretty consistent theme for most clubs in NWSL. It was the reason why. Kansas City ended up becoming Utah Royals because Kansas City playing conditions and living conditions and just in general how they ran the franchise was not NWSL standards. And really, Sky Blue FC is not NWSL standards. They just don't have an option yet on what they want to do with the club. But it's on the NWSL to make a decision, and unfortunately, it falls at a time where there's no NWSL commissioner. They still haven't appointed a commissioner. It's been 7 months now. 6 months. It's been since about a month and a half, 2 months before the beginning of the season. So they need an NWSL commissioner, and they need one of those fast. Also, the U.S. men have and this is kind of tied to that, the U.S. men have a general manager, but the U.S. women don't have a general manager yet.
No.
So what that shows you is the priority that is placed on the women's game from the USSF standpoint. And it trickles down into the NWSL. It trickles down to how the teams handle things.
There's a reason why there were rumors about the NWSL approaching the USL.
Absolutely, and I guarantee you that some of that was, and I think you hit the nail on the head, that some of that was spurred on by North Carolina FC's owner and managers. But I think also some of that was spurred on by some of the MLS clubs as well, to be honest with you, because the tie to USSF right now is actually hurting them significantly in a few different ways. Orlando experiences it when their national, and just like we do, their national team players aren't there. Nobody cares. And so, it's just interesting. I think longevity of the league is important, but I also think we need to make sure that the players are taken care of. And I hope that this coming out will give the players some form of, to use their own words, a leg to stand on for a change, to give them some sort of ammunition that they can use in the upcoming collective bargaining agreement, CBA, that they're going to have to figure out very soon. And I hope that USSF takes it seriously, because if they don't, it's going to cause some serious strife. Not that it already hasn't, but even more. And the type of society in general right now is very aware of things like this and inequality right now, and USSF cannot continue to turn a blind eye to it, and it is on Carlos Cordero to make a change. And so we'll see how that pans out. But with that said, I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else other than Tigres beating
Santos Laguna,
and,
4-0.
Campeón de Campeones.
Yeah, and well,
Which I watched, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. I watched the Liga MX
So,
match.
if you guys want to curse out Sean for daring to look at a Liga MX match,
There was nothing else going on at the time, and I did check. I channel checked actually before I watched it, just so it's clear. There's nothing else going on. There was nothing else to watch on TV.
Gignac, though.
And honestly, you know, I've said this before to you that I do like and I appreciate and I am a fan of Tigres. I'm not a diehard. I don't follow them religiously, but
Like
I
I
like
do.
them. Huh?
Like I do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not you. You know, and I didn't grow up with them. But I am definitely a fan of the club, and I enjoyed the hell out of that match.
So just to bring up, because there is some MLS connection to that match.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tigres won that match, they're going to play against Toronto FC in this newly created cup between MLS and Liga MX champions.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes to show that there is some importance of that match in regards to MLS. Actually, Blues fan, no, Cisco. I don't know if we talked about this before, but the fact that they lost Go 90.
Yeah, that's huge. And they didn't lose Go 90. We should be clear. They did not lose Go 90. Go 90
Lost itself.
Just period. Go 90 is shutting down operations because the streams sucked, the product sucked, the backbone of the product sucked, the infrastructure sucked.
The
People
server
hated
sucked.
it. The server, that was the infrastructure.
Wow.
People hated it. I mean, it just didn't work like it was supposed to. Half the time, if you could log in and you could actually access your stream, it would be stuttery, buffery. It was not a good way. It was not good at all. And so those matches, they have not announced what's going to happen with those, but they literally have until the end of July. To give you an indication, that's less than 15 days away. So they have less than 2 weeks to figure out what the heck they're going to do and where they're going to move those streams to. It'll probably be back to YouTube, which means we're getting back to just as bad streams, but at least it's on YouTube where it won't be stuttery anymore. By stream, I mean just the quality of the camera work and the quality of the cameras in general.
I get you.
But I hope that NWSL can work with probably ESPN to get them on ESPN Plus. But it's going to require ESPN footing a little bit of the bill for broadcast stuff for some of the clubs because some of the clubs just don't have the broadcast capabilities that like the Dash and Orlando Pride and Utah Royals and Portland Thorns and Seattle Reign have. Which really that's only like 3 or 4 clubs I think total in that entire thing that don't have MLS ties enough to at least cover the team properly. So, with that said, I don't think there's anything else left to talk about.
No,
this week
not
anyways.
really. That's pretty much, we've hit everything that we should talk about, and I think it's time to say goodbye.
So long. Yeah, no, it's absolutely time to shut down the show because I got spaghetti waiting for me. I'm hungry. Guys, thank you.
Someone to touch my spaghetti.
Okay. Guys, we really appreciate you tuning in. We really appreciate you listening and watching. Again, if you haven't already, please do us the favor. Like, share, subscribe to the video. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Like and follow and retweet our Generation Orange account. That's at Gen Orange Radio. Like and tweet and follow our like, retweet, and follow our Down in the Valley channel at Down in the RGV. Like and follow and subscribe to our Down in the Gaming channel at youtube.com/ I don't know, it's a slash.
We don't have a custom.
Oh, we don't have a URL. Okay,
Yeah,
so then
we need to get to 100 subscribers in order
that's why we want subscribers. Yes, so go subscribe to our channel. If you have friends, tell them to go subscribe to the channel. If you know people that like gaming but don't care about soccer, go subscribe to the channel, or go tell them to subscribe to the channel. And then if anybody out there has games that they want us to play, feel free to shoot recommendations our way, either in the Dynamo Discord or on Twitter. We will take those into consideration for sure. And also make sure you follow our friends Beautiful Game Network, even though they're not part of our thing, they're part of Down in the Valley, and that makes them our friends. At Beautiful?
At the BGNFM
There
on
it is.
Twitter and as well as on Facebook, and their website is www.bgn.fm.
And then lastly, shout out to Keeper Notes / Jen Cooper, who's been maintaining and running the Mix Zone podcast. This week, that'll be going up tomorrow, probably mid-afternoon or so. She unfortunately, she had sync turned off on the Dropbox where I download the audio from for this week's, and I couldn't get to the audio until this evening, and by that point, it was time for show or very close to it. So that'll go up tomorrow. I'm going to work on that in the morning, I guess. With that said, again, thank you and have a good night. Forever Orange.
Hashtag Somos Todos.
And Dash TF on.
All right, guys. Take care.
Peace.